On October 24th, 1984, Tim and Ann Warner invited their newborn baby girl, Rebecca Ann Warner, into the world. And that would be me. I lived in Columbia, Missouri for the first 2 years of my life, followed by 16 years in Boonville, Missouri. By this time, I was a well-rounded, if slightly odd, high school graduate who loved theater, hacky sack, my dog Bayo, and my boyfriend Travis. The summer after I graduated, I moved in with Travis and started my life in Troy, Missouri. Over the next 7 years, I started college, dropped out of college. I restored an 86 Trans Am, worked at a horse farm in exchange for lessons, wrecked my 86 Trans Am, started a framing business, closed a framing business, read a lot of books, watched a lot of movies, took up archery, started painting again. We bought a house, I took up photography, fell madly in love, and on May 16th, 2009, Travis and I got married, and I became Rebecca Boyd. I am going to college part-time now, and I teach full-time at a daycare. I'm currently working on writing my very first book, which has a lot to do with a hobby that I'm very passionate about, fencing. And when I say fencing, I mean fighting with swords, not building fences. Yes, people ask me that. I fence 4 to 5 days a week with Baited Blade Classical Fencing Club, and for me, fencing fills a physical, mental, and social void in my life like nothing else can, but I'll save all that for my informative speech. When I was researching events that happened in 1984, I had a really hard time coming up with anything that was important to me or related to me or that I really cared about. Like for example, in the world of sports, I love Cardinals baseball and I love Blues hockey, but in 1984, no team that I care anything about won any major sporting event. I don't really care for sport fencing, and I don't really follow the Olympics, but I really had to dig for an event. So I found out that in the Summer Olympics of 1984, a man named Peter Westbrook won the bronze medal for individual saber. As I learned a little bit more about him, I found out that he really does deserve a lot of recognition, if not for being one of the few USA fencers who ever won a medal in the Olympics, then for what he did in later years. He went on to found the Peter Westbrook Foundation, which is a non-for-profit organization that provides fencing for underprivileged kids in New York City. Another hobby that I care deeply about is photography, and on April 22nd, 1984, professional photographer Ansel Adams passed away at the age of 82. He was famous for black and white landscape photography. 2 other deaths that happened in '84 I'd like to mention are blues singer Muddy Waters passed away in April, and comedian Andy Kaufman died of cancer on May 16th, which is the same day, 25 years later, that I would get married. When I got married, I followed the famous rhyme that says, something old, something blue, something borrowed, something blue, and a silver 6pence for your shoe. Now, a lot of people follow the same rhyme, but they end it with, and a shiny penny for your shoe. And the reason being is that in 1984, Great Britain minted the last 6pence, and since then, they've become harder and harder to find. Lucky for me, my grandma and my great-aunt Dora immigrated from England, and so my aunt gave me one that she brought with her on the boat to America. There were quite a few technology milestones in 1984. A Russian cosmonaut became the first woman to do a spacewalk, and she was followed shortly after by the first American woman to do a spacewalk. A tragic event related to technology happened in July of that year, and it was the first documented case of a robot killing a human in America. But perhaps the most important event of 1984 actually occurred during the Super Bowl. It wasn't the game, and it had nothing to do with the teams or the players involved. It actually happened during the commercials that we seem to love so much as Americans. In 1984, perhaps the most influential and important famous commercial ever aired introduced the first personal computer, the Macintosh, by Apple Computers, changed our household and our lives by introducing the computers into the everyday household of America. And so I'd like to conclude by saying that while the world was changed by some events in 1984, it seems that on the date of October 24th, my birth still might be the most interesting thing that happened.
Yay! Yay! I'm gonna clap, so...